you so much for being here with us. You're watching All Angles. I'm Dion Jacksmiller, and this is our 2025 Young Achievers Special. And yes, we're a couple of weeks late. That's because 2026 started out with a bang, whole heap of news. Had to push back the program by a few weeks, but it's always one of my very favorite programs. I'm really happy to have our guest with us this evening. You're going to be hearing from Dr. Alicia Polak. Now, she's a young doctor, pediatrician, excelling in Toronto in Canada, carrying the Jamaican flag high. We're also going to be talking to Navaski Anderson, the people's champion. He's Jamaica's national record holder in the men's 800 meters. And of course, you know, we all watched him excelling on the international scene. And we'll have with us as well Tiana Dinham. She's a 2026 Rhodes Scholar, and we'll hear about some of the fantastic work that she is doing. First, though, really excited to welcome Kyle Gooden. He's here with us in studio, and he's whole heap of things. He describes himself as an interdisciplinary artist, an educator, writer, and he was a valedictorian for 2025 for the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. It's so great to have you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me, Dion.
So the first thing I have to ask you is about the valedictorian, the graduation ceremony, because Edna always seems to do the most when it comes to graduations. Singing and dancing and all kind of things. Tell us a little bit about that and what goes into that.
One of the beautiful things about Edna's graduation is that it takes the form of a musical production. And so every year there's a different story that they tell, and they try to make each moment where someone is speaking or there's a new segment of the performance, they try to make it special. And so this year they chose to do that in different genres of dance. And my genre just happened to be dancehall. And for people who know me, that's very ironic because I'm not a huge dancehall listener.
Really?
No,
Okay.
but that was my one. That was my genre, and that was what came to life.
So just to be clear, because other colleges, you practice things like walking and, you know, making sure you're in tune with the beat and them bag of things, but y'all are saying you do a whole lot more than that.
Well, we do, yeah, because we do a lot more than that, because we also have the drums as a part of the procession into the ceremony. So it does break away from that tradition of a certain kind of tempo.
Who puts together the production? Is it the students or staff?
It's usually staff. There usually is a director. There's always a director. This production's director was Owen Blacker Ellis, and he also had help from a number of faculty members. So it really is something that everybody contributes to.
Okay, so your role now as valedictorian, because you're leading all of that. First of all, how special was that?
It was a very special moment for me. I don't usually like the spotlight. And so,
really?
So sometimes,
you know, as she goes for his bio with the bag of things, but I soon come to that.
But it was a very special moment, and my parents. It was very special for me to have my parents there, my family there, my sister there, and they've always been supportive, and so it was a very important and special moment for me.
Your resume is just really, really impressive, though. I mean, recipient of the Grace Kennedy Scholarship, Merit Awards, grants, Principal and Chairman's Award, and you've actually presented your work. So you're not a young artist going out into the world and looking for a space. You've already been creating space. What led to that? What gave you those early opportunities? Because you've presented or are presenting at the Cage Gallery as well as the National Gallery, which is like big deal.
So going from Cage Gallery to National Gallery was a very gentle transition. The Cage Gallery is Edna Manley.
I like that description.
It was, the Cage Gallery is Edna's incubator gallery, and that's where the students have a lot of shows that we put on.
Right.
And even faculty shows as well. So it was very gentle to go from that space where it was encouraged and nurtured, and then transitioning out of that, you get more practice, more opportunities to show in different shows. Persons see your work and they say, hey, would you like to be in this show? So, and that was kind of the collaboration that led to being also in the Olympia Gallery, in their Curator's Eye show that just closed. And so it really has, for me, been a process of putting the work out there, receiving feedback, and continuing to work on it.
Well, you have one of your pieces here, so describe for us what we're seeing.
So this is an oil painting that I started shortly after finishing final year. And for me, this is titled Portrait of the Worker. And in it, I am making references to the middle passage. You'll notice on the skin of the worker, that pattern from the Brooks slave ship, where the bodies were stacked on those ships in the Middle Passage. But that replaces the skin as a way of referencing that history. And you'll also notice that the figure is placed in front of a picket fence, which also has other meanings of exclusion. I'm exploring the exclusion of workers from the spaces that they work in and that they build, and the way how
And making the rich people rich while they don't have access to
well, yes,
spaces
and
of
and
richness
and how Black people have historically been excluded from the spaces that they work in,
except to serve.
except to serve.
And the construction hat is a overt reference to the worker.
It's an overt reference to the worker, but it also began because the work that I did for my final year independent study was rooted in construction workers specifically, and the history of exclusion of Black workers from the things that they build. So, like on the sugar estate and the colonial built environment where they were building great houses and aqueducts that they would then be excluded from upon completion. And thinking about those ruins as the products of enslaved people, that's kind of their material lineage, their legacy that lives on, and that's the only way that we can touch that history, is through these ruins that they probably never wanted to build in the first place. So I began to think about that relationship, and then thinking about the workers in the current built environment, and thinking about how they're similarly building things that they will be excluded from, or building spaces that they're not the intended inhabitants of, if that makes sense.
And in fact, I read in your bio that you're particularly interested in that whole issue of what you were just describing, race, labor, and the built environmental, and as you said, exclusion of workers. But what sparked that particular interest? Is it something in your personal history, or is it what you see around you in Jamaican society?
I think it definitely stemmed from seeing it around the place, and it's definitely made me more sensitive or observant of the worker and the way how the worker builds the island, and the way how workers everywhere build everywhere, but the way how workers have been excluded historically. And for me, it stemmed from my journey to school every day, seeing construction workers all over the place, seeing them through the green mesh that they use on the site, seeing them high above and seeing them carrying loads. And it made me more sensitive to a kind of burden, a laborer that is constantly working.
So again, if I understand you correctly, you're seeing them and you're seeing them building these big fancy offices that they won't have egress, they won't have access to.
Yes. And then there's also connections to our general access to land and Black people's access to land in the country, and the history of land access, going back to the plantocracy and how land ownership was determined by, well, your democratic right was, determined by the land that you owned. And Black people have never really been the true owners of land.
So in terms of this kind of work now, where do you see, is this an area you want to continue to delve into and portray in different ways?
It's definitely something that I want to explore further. I think there's a lot of different facets and fractures that I want to investigate, not just with construction workers, but workers everywhere, and also workers in domestic environments, and thinking about that relationship and how. And then someone also mentioned the other day about the presence of women in the work and how a lot of the images I've produced have really been male-centric. And that's not necessarily to say that women aren't a part of this field and that...
I can play catch up with the woman part of it.
Well, definitely not. But I did want to intentionally focus on men because time and time again, in a lot of the discourse, we think about the issues that affect us as a nation. And generally, we say it's man, man, man. And it is true. But if that is the case, then it is true to some extent. And if that is the case, then maybe we need to focus on the male and some of the underlying issues that are taking place within the man. And my way of doing that was thinking about the history of his exclusion from the things that he's building.
So having graduated, what's next?
I'd really like to pursue a Master of Fine Arts overseas. I've been researching and looking at different programs. But that's definitely the next level for me in terms of fine arts and practice. Right now I teach art at Creative Kids Learning Academy, where I'm also heading the creative arts department. And so that, for me, it takes up a lot of my time right now, but I enjoy it, and I'd like to continue to do it for now.
That sounds pretty cool because I mean, kids are just so much fun. And when you have them exploring a medium like art and just really letting their imagination run wild, but how do you, coming from this kind of very academic, thoughtful, history based background, how you translate that now into working with little kids?
One of the things that's very important for me in the classroom is the students developing an awareness of the world around them. A lot of my classes take place outside or in a space that's kind of in between outside and inside. And so developing that awareness of the world around you, that you're not making this world in a bubble, that you're not making this work in a bubble, and also an awareness of just some of the fundamentals about visual art.
Okay. What's most fun about it?
You mentioned it already, that excitement when a student gets something that they've been working on, or the excitement that students bring to the class. Sometimes when they're just very enthusiastic about learning. And fortunately, a lot of my students love art.
Okay.
And so it's not usually taxing to get them involved or engaged.
Okay, so tell me now the interdisciplinary artist part of it, what that mean?
Interdisciplinary means that I'm working in different media. I work in drawing, painting, I do sculpture, but I also do installation. I'm also a performer, and so I do theater from time to time. And performance is something that I'm tapping into now, especially now that I've graduated, using some of the time that I've gained from graduating to explore that side a bit more.
Okay, so one of the questions a lot of people always have is, boy, all of this sound good, but you can make money? You can make a living doing all of this?
I believe that it's possible, but it depends on what we mean by things like living. And I think everybody, it's imperative for anyone doing this or doing art or anything to really refine and think about what success means to you individually. I'm fortunate that I feel very successful, but that is also because I enjoy what I do. I enjoy my work. I enjoy teaching, and these are two things that I hope to continue.
5 years, 10 years from now?
5 years, 10 years from now.
Where will you be? What do you see yourself doing?
Within 5 years, I'd really like to be continuing this practice of drawing and the installation. I'd like to continue working. Okay. And I'd like to be. I would have liked to have completed my master's by then, and be teaching at, if not this level, a higher level. Okay, well, we look forward to seeing you. I'm sure we'll be seeing and hearing much more about you. Thank you so much for coming in. Great to talk to you. Thank you for having me, Dion. All right, folks, and stay tuned because in the next segment, we'll hear from Dr. Alicia Polak, what she's doing up there in Toronto, Canada. We soon come.